Welcome to the Building Your Career podcast. I'm your host, Don Tarjanskis, and join us as we explore the world of construction. Each episode, we welcome a guest that shares career highlights and career advice, and hopefully inspires the next generation of construction professionals. Welcome to another episode of the Building Your Career podcast. Today, I've got as a guest David Knight from Cake Industries, a company that I've been following for a while now and doing some pretty incredible work. I went to an event of theirs recently at the Engineers Create Club in St Pancras, and they had one of their cool projects on display there. So I'm really excited to have David on. So I suppose we'll start off where we always start off, David. Could you tell us a little bit more about yourself, a little bit more about Cake Industries and what you do there?
Sure. Well, it's really exciting to be on. Thank you for the invitation. My name is David Knight, of course, but I'm a structural engineer by background, a chartered engineer, having worked for a variety of large consultancies at the early part of my career, Bureau Happold and Coe, particularly as Flint & Neil, as was. And about 6 or 7 years ago, I joined Cake Industries. Cake Industries is an odd beast. It's a unusual company in the structural engineering field, because we are both a design house and a fabrication workshop. So we work with artists, architects, designers, to take an initial sketch, hand sketch, or a set of Pinterest images. That's always a good starting point for a project, and create both the structural engineering and the design and the fabrication design, and then also make that object and install it and complete the project. So really hands-on company. I also, within the Cake Industries group of companies, run Cake Engineering, and Cake Engineering is a more traditional consultancy, engineering consultancy that works for external clients, providing structural engineering capabilities. And my background particularly is in bridges. So I as I said, spent a long time working for consultancies on architectural footbridges, moving structures, complicated and often quite small objects, but very integrated architecture, design and engineering. And that's really where my passion is. And so a lot of the focus of my work at Cake Industries is on that complexity, on that really difficult work. Some bridges, but also pavilions, sculptures, and some really large and complicated staircases as well.
Okay, awesome. And I will include a link to the Cake Industries website below. So please, to all of our listeners, please click on that link. But I know you've worked on some cool projects in the past before. So could you just go over some of those projects that you're super excited about and most proud of?
Sure. Well, the most exciting project for me is a project we finished at the beginning of last year up in Scotland, Brackland Falls footbridge, with Beam Architects. And the reason I say that it's exciting is because of the process as much as the outcome. We were directly appointed by the client, the national park, Loch Lomond and the Trossachs National Park, to replace a bridge over a waterfall. And that meant that we came up with a concept design as Cake Industries. We employed Beam Architects to be the architectural consultants on the job. And that concept had to be both fabricatable and installable for the initial value that we had told the client it would be. And so huge amounts of constraints before you start putting the site constraints on top, almost inaccessible site. You needed to, you couldn't get a crane there. So we had to modularize this bridge, 22 meter span footbridge, as I say, over raging torrents. And bring it to site in small 3 meter long sections, bolt them together on site, slide it into place. Lots of construction engineering, but also a beautiful object in the end in a beautiful site. And it was, for me, it's the epitome of what we've been trying to do at Cake. It's to try and bring our fabrication and construction knowledge right back up the tree and make the design worth that work, and understand that work and create that feedback loop of, we know how to make this, we know what the the qualities of design it needs to be. So that for me has been the triumph of my time at Cake. The other exciting project we've worked on recently, which is probably much better known, is Cody Dock Rolling Bridge, where we worked with Tom Randall Page as the architectural designer, and Price and Myers as the structural engineers, and we were the detailed fabrication designers, construction designers, but also main contractor and fabrication of that extraordinary, entirely mad project, which, if you haven't seen it online, is a set of square hoops either end of a bridge. It rolls along a curved track and lifts the deck upside down to allow boats to go past. One of the weirdest and most wonderful experiences of my professional career to actually get that made, and the most nervous day watching it roll.
Yeah, so there is some really, really cool projects, and I will include the link below. But yeah, go check out their website. I can't stress that enough. But if we could kind of turn back the hands of time for you then personally, David, where did it all begin for you, kind of wanting to pursue a career in engineering?
It's an interesting question, actually. So I come from a background where my father is a maker. He's a furniture maker, makes up chairs and tables in timber. I grew up in a workshop, but I've always had a mathematical, science-based brain. And one of our family holidays, driving through Denmark, I was shown the great bridges, the Storebælt Bridge and then the Øresund Bridge, both of which are astonishing pieces of architecture and engineering in that landscape. And sort of out of nowhere, I said, well, that's what I want to do. I want to be able to make that kind of thing. And I told my university interviewer that. I said, I want to build bridges. And I've become the stereotype, and I am now that person that designs bridges 20 years later. And that is really important to me, is that the passion for what you make drives the joy you get out of your job, and the mixing of passion and the realities of work enables it to continue to be enjoyable every new project we pick up. And yeah, for me, that's where it comes from. And there's a continuing passion to do well and to marry design and the built environment together.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's important to stress as well is that, you've found your passion, you've found a company that really cares about good design quality, and no two projects are ever the same. So if people ever feel as though, engineering might just be one project or another project and that's it, there are companies out there such as Cake who do just such incredible work that it's going to be different every single time.
Yeah, and we pride ourselves on it being challenging and difficult, and that's just the niche that we're in. But I think not every job, not every location can always be different, but you can find enjoyment and passion in every piece of engineering, and caring about what you do is absolutely vital. It is your name or your idea on the drawing, and your work on the drawing, and it being a passion project really makes the whole thing a better exercise.
No, definitely. So I suppose for you, if you could turn back the hands of time then and give yourself one piece of advice when you first started your journey in the engineering field, what would you tell your kind of younger self?
Well, I'm not sure what I'd tell myself, but I would repeat what I was told at the time, which has really stood me in good stead, and that's to not say no, to take opportunities when they come, and sometimes you can be trepidatious or worried about that opportunity, but it can really open doors. And I remember very clearly one of my early mentors, Ian Firth at Flint and Neil, coming to my desk one day and saying, "I've got this project and I don't really know what to do about it. I know you're a bit busy, but do you want to have a go on it?" And based on that advice, I said, "Yeah, I'll give it a go." And that led to a relationship with my current business partners, and a project that really started Cake off. But there are episodes of that throughout my career where just saying yes without really knowing where it was leading has opened up doors and opportunities further on. And going back for myself, I think encouraging myself to keep pursuing that passion, as I said, it would help. And there were stages in my career where perhaps I wasn't doing what I was passionate about, and recentering myself occasionally has helped my career progress.
That's brilliant. And do you know what? That is a bit of advice that we've actually never had on this podcast before. It's such a simple bit of advice, but yeah, I can really resonate with that one. Is
Mm,
take those opportunities when they come along, and even though it might seem difficult at first, you kind of learn on the job, as it were. And if it's not
absolutely.
for you taking those opportunities on, then you're never going to progress and you're never going to learn. So yeah,
Yep.
excellent bit of advice there. So leading on from that, then, what do you think defines the kind of the key characteristics of successful structural engineers in today's market?
Um, the baseline and absolutely vital is that you understand the gravity of what we do. So,
Mhm.
as structural engineers, we are responsible for life safety
Yep.
and longevity over time, and you can get drawn into discussions about innovation or computation or aesthetics and think that, well, that's what we do. We make all those things possible. But your core skill and your core responsibility is to ensure that what you do is safe. And I think that's absolutely vital. The second thing I would say is to and that goes back to the concept of a T-shaped professional. You need to have your depth of knowledge about your subject, be that about codes, be that about how materials work, be that about how computational work works. That depth is vital, because without that, you have got nothing to contribute. But if you aren't able to contribute to a wider design team, nothing will get built. So the other things that are absolutely vital is the ability to communicate and to collaborate.
Mhm.
Both communicate with people who think like you, but also communicate with people who don't think like you and
Mhm.
appreciate and understand different viewpoints and different understanding. So how you communicate and how you talk to people is something that and be that that might be spoken, it might be written, and it often is drawings and calculations. Those are all forms of communication. But yeah, you can't transfer your knowledge to others without being good at that. And collaboration comes from that.
Mhm.
And the better you are at communicating, the more you are able to collaborate properly. And great projects can only come from a collaborative team. The idea of a single master builder is antiquated these days, and all the projects I've spoken about and are pleased with have come from good working relationships with other members on the team who I'm really happy to credit with their work.
And I think, you've touched on a crucial point there. It is all about kind of communication. So the advice that I always give in this podcast is when you're first starting out your career, make sure you are speaking to as many people as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think, again, one of the things that I'm trying to get rid of is those myths in construction where, people don't want to speak to you, people are too busy, they're not going to give you the time of day. But if you are starting out your career, then people really do want to genuinely help you. So
Yeah,
ask the questions, go out there, communicate with people, and as you say, build up that knowledge and communication from day one. Really is crucial, and will really help you with those projects.
and that it can, as a young or early career designer or engineer, be nerve wracking to do that.
Yeah, yeah, of
And
course.
I'm also not just thinking about networking and talking to people, talking to new people, but I'm also talking about putting ideas forward. It can be nerve wracking to do
Yeah.
that. But when you put ideas forward, you are vulnerable. You are vulnerable to criticism, but you are also contributing to the discussion. And so by continuing to put stuff forward, put yourself out there, talk to people, engage, show who you are. You develop, but also people get to know you, and therefore will bring you in on other things, or trust you, or give you opportunities. So yeah, be
Perfect.
gregarious.
Yeah, definitely. So for people just starting out, or even just people kind of thinking about a career in engineering, then is there any places either online or in person, particularly for the London market, that people can go to find out more information? I mean, where's the best places to meet up, or whether that be
Mm.
virtually or in person?
So, two things I want to pick up here. One, I'm the chair of the British Group of IABSE. IABSE is the International Association of Bridge and Structural Engineering, which is a bit of a mouthful. But it's it's not the iStruct, it's not the ICE. It's a club for engineers who are passionate about building and structures. And bridges is part of that, and it's a really vibrant community. And we run some excellent events for early career professionals. Two of those I'll just quickly mention. One is the Future of Design Conference, which is aimed at early career professionals and is something that happens biannually, both in the north of England and in London, and is a day-long event aimed to inspire people, and also a great way of meeting other people who want to be inspired and also passionate about work, which is not a given. So do come along to those. We also run careers events and various other things, but finding your crowd, your group of people is really valuable in that. The other thing that I'm somewhat involved with in London is a group called the Engineering Club, a similar idea about passion, but in wider engineering terms, and the Seckford sessions, which are a debating organisation where we run debates on controversial topics regularly. But again, it's a crowd of people who are engaged slightly wider than their day job, and do come along to those kind of events. We're running a Seckford Sessions event relatively soon. I'm not sure when this podcast will go out, but on whether the future is dystopian or not, and how do we address that. So it's a big topic, but hopefully with some humour and some excitement, and lots of like-minded people around to have a drink with.
Perfect. And to all our listeners, again, links in the description below. So please get yourself down to those events. That's really important. If there's only so much I can do on this podcast, but if you're meeting people out there in real life, then that's going to hold you in good stead, really. But for you, how kind of important is the education route in the engineering? And is there any particular certifications or any particular courses that you would recommend for people to kind of have a look at?
So I mentioned I'm a chartered structural engineer, and I'm quite proud of having gone through that chartership route. It's a difficult process, especially with the iStruct exam. So you can become a chartered engineer without doing the exam, but the exam is really the marker of having the knowledge and experience and competence to really practice as a structural engineer. But that's the end point, and there are staging points. So it's the end point of the chartership process. Your learning should continue throughout your career. So I would encourage people to look at that and aim for that. But prior to that, there are a couple of really good courses that the iStruct run. One is on understanding structural behaviour, which I think for a young structural engineer is absolutely vital. It's not often taught very well at university, but the understanding structural behaviour course that the iStruct runs, and the certification that comes out of that, is a really good verification of physics and how you understand physics in relation to buildings and structures. The other course that I'm really excited about, I haven't actually been on it, but my colleagues and friends who have been on it have spoken about it with great fervour, is the regenerative design course that Oliver Broadbent and Constructivist runs. It's a residential course based in a forest in the middle of nowhere, but in the context of the climate emergency, regenerative design is the only perceivable way that we can address some of these huge issues. And if you have the opportunity to go on that course, I would heartily recommend it. It's a spectacular. The outcomes of that are spectacular. Other than that, as a professional, you need to get into the habit of learning on a regular basis, on a daily basis, and not just through organised events. And I think a passion for learning and a passion to teach yourself new things, be that coding, Grasshopper, or even just the codes and standards, or a new material, and enjoying that as part of your job, because we need to be doing that throughout our careers. Will always stand you in good stead. Keep learning all the way along.
Yeah, definitely. And I remember in the build up to this podcast, we spoke about the people at Cake Industries, and you said to
Mm.
me that they had kind of come from different educational backgrounds as well.
Yeah, and so so Cake Industry is obviously slightly larger than just structural engineering, but our makers and our designers, the makers tend to have an art or a making background or an apprenticeship, so they have an educational background as well as a manual training. But our designers will come from a variety of backgrounds, be that an architecture degree or a mechanical engineering degree or a industrial design or product design background. And we, within the organisation, really value that diversity of background. And diversity for us is really important to make sure that we are not just thinking in the same way. We're not people of the same mould. And so I value spending time with architecture graduates as much as I do spending time with engineering graduates. And really some of the smartest people in our business are those that don't have a degree at all, and have proper hands-on apprenticeship based skill based courses, and that there is. I've spoken a lot about structural engineering and the academic route, but you should recognise that there is a less academic route into doing incredible things as well.
Yeah, definitely, and I think it's important to highlight what the aim of the podcast is from whatever background you're at, there's always information out there. There's always ways to get into the industry that you're looking for, and I think that Cake is just a testament to that. Really, you've got lots of different people from different backgrounds as well. But I mean, just as a bit of a side note there, for people who are kind of first starting out, there can be a lot of kind of common myths and misconceptions about the construction industry and the engineering industry. I think, one of the most common ones on here is that a lot of people, when they first started out, just assumed that, it's just roofers and bricklayers, and that's all the construction industry was. So is there, maybe some of the people that have joined Cake, is there any kind of common misconceptions that they had before they joined the company, or anything that common misconceptions that you've had to kind of just dispel over the years and say that simply isn't the case?
Not so much. I think there's we're at the exciting, in inverted commas, end of the industry.
Yeah.
But even for us, you look at our project list and think, wow, that's amazing. I'd love to do that kind of project. And especially for us, there are periods where it's not as exciting and not as interesting. And I think that's a reality of being in a job. And if you take that, again, with air quotes, boring part of the of work, but reflect on it and really enjoy the enjoyable parts, you will lead quite a well balanced and well structured professional life, and you will enable yourself to balance your life outside work with work. But I think really the process type work is necessary. Hopefully, some of it will be automated, but really enjoy the good bits, and look back on them and make the most of them, and that makes some of the rest of it, bearable. But it is a misconception that if you go to a company that has exciting projects on its website, that all of your career will be spent doing exciting projects, and as long as you recognise that that isn't the case, wherever you go, however they sell themselves, whatever pretty pictures they put on their website, there will be stuff that just needs doing, and someone needs to do them. Then you'll be fine.
That resonates with me really well. After I finished my Part 1 architecture degree, I moved to London, and yeah, after 3 years of doing conceptual and building models, and then all of a sudden I was designing toilet details. But it wasn't
Absolutely, yeah.
forever. It's one of those. It wasn't forever.
Yeah.
You've just got to learn your trade, learn your craft, and
Mm,
as you say,
mm.
you've got to learn the fundamentals and the principles first. So yeah,
And
very very good.
it goes back to what I said earlier about saying yes. The way, the way out of
Yeah,
doing door schedules is to say yes to the next project already and get on with it, and do the excitement well as you can. You make your own career. Don't let it.
brilliant.
Don't wait for it to be handed to you.
Yeah, that's very good advice. So, I suppose just moving on to our final question, I think the CIOB produced a report not too long ago to say that we need 250,000 more people in the construction industry by 2027, just to sustain the industry, not even to grow, but just to sustain. So, what can the industry as a whole do to both attract, retain, and nurture young talent?
Um, It's a fascinating question, isn't it? I think we need and it's one that we've been talking about for my whole career. The dearth of engineers and the potential brain drain away from it. I know on my course, I can't remember quite how many there were of us that did structural engineering in the end, maybe 70, but probably only 30% went on into engineering. So even after 4 years of an engineering degree, the vast majority decided not to do engineering. I think, though, that the challenges that the construction industry are tackling now, particularly around the climate emergency, are some of the biggest challenges that you can have as a professional. Infrastructure is absolutely crucial to allow people to move around and therefore to make the changes that we need to make to reduce our climate emissions, and managing and maintaining structures is supremely vital so that we don't pump more carbon into the air. So, we have to be better at talking about that. We have to be slightly better at not just talking about hero projects and new builds. We need to talk about the good that we do, and attract people that way, and show that it's a profession with a reason, and with a moral background. We also have to be better at communicating the collaborative nature of what we do as well. I think the perception that it's hard hats um, and site, yes, some of it's that, but not very much of it. A lot of it is about talking to people, as I said, communication skills, collaborative skills. And there is a perception that structural engineering is an old man with his head down doing some calculations on a sheet of paper, and that is not reality anymore. The best structural engineers I know are reasonably young, but reasonably experienced at working with teams, drawing in inspiration from place to place, using the latest computational tools and being excited about those, but with a baseline of physics knowledge. And you're at the nerve center, and I find myself at the center of so many projects where there's lots needs to happen, both from a having ideas point of view and a making point of view, and I'm the person that pulls it all together and makes that decision happen. So, in terms of getting more people into the industry, I think talking about the non-classical images, collaborative images, diverse images, skills-based images rather than knowledge-based images. We need people with soft skills. We need people with an appreciation of the wider world and industries, humanity skills, as well as numeracy and science. Can only help.
Well, David, an incredible guest. You shared some really, really good insights there and given some really good tangible advice as well. So yeah, I've thoroughly enjoyed this podcast. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you very much for being a guest on the Built in Your Career podcast.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
No problem at all. And one final one, links below. Make sure you get yourself to those events. Joining us on the Building Your Career podcast. We hope you enjoyed hearing from our guest and learning about the different career paths available. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe so we can reach even more listeners. And if anyone wants any free CV advice or simply wants to know the options available to them, don't hesitate to get in touch.